morning and welcome to this webinar on the introduction to Upchain. The purpose of today's webinar is going to be to discuss this new product that we've got and just give a little bit of an insight into what this new Autodesk offering is. So, a little bit about myself. My name is Adrian Patterson. I'm an applications engineer here at Man & Machine. I've been involved in the Autodesk ecosystem for probably about 9 years now. I am passionate about all things mechanical design and data management, and in my spare time I have a lot of various different hobbies. Anyway, moving on. What Man & Machine can offer you is great tech care support, the ability to do BIM-ready services, Autodesk training and other training services. We can look at software deployments and asset management for managing your license and looking at how we can deploy that software across your business. And we can talk about workflow automation and processes. So we can assist you in making sure that your workflows and your processes are as streamlined as they can possibly be. And the important one, which we're going to be talking about today, is data management and cloud services. So let's start with some scary figures and facts. Right, engineers on average, this is a lovely one here, can spend 2 months a year looking for product data. This might mean compiling data from various different places and locations and systems and where they might be stored and contacting people to get that data and those documents and those bits of information and, complete the job that they need to do. And while we're talking about systems, those engineers might need to deal with up to 10 systems in order to make one change. That's staggering. Just to be able to make one change in a system, that's the amount of one change in a design, that's the amount of systems that they would need to go and interact with. Now, on top of that, 83% of new products miss their cost targets. Cost targets are notoriously difficult to achieve when doing new products and introductions of new products, because if you don't get it right in the beginning and you don't have all of your systems right in the beginning, it costs you more to fix those problems later when they become apparent. And 79% of new products miss the launch date that was originally anticipated for them. So, us in engineering and design are under more pressure than ever to get these systems right and make sure that we are delivering exactly what we need to when we need to. So, let's take a look at have data management is done traditionally. I'm going to say traditionally, but this might be slightly more modern than some companies have. Right, so we have all of these people on the left-hand side in that blue box, which represents the company or internal inside of the building in the company. So we've got engineering manager, designers, mechanical engineers, etc. And they are storing their designs on a single centralized server within their business. Now that single server, whether it's network hosted, whether it's a NAS drive, whether let's hope it's not locally on their machines, because that's a little even more crazier than this current setup that I'm showing you, but it does happen. That data is on that system local and needs to be backed up, it needs to be maintained, that data needs to be kept clean and organized and made sure that everything is nice and neat. And we all know, working with Inventor particularly, broken links are a thing. And it can become even crazier just trying to keep this amount of data organized. And then when you start looking at the amount of data that needs to leave that system, you've got various different platforms that might be used to go and share it, whether it's an FTP site, whether it's Dropbox or SharePoint or email, and getting all of this data to the various people who might be outside of the business, might be contractors or customers or engineering service providers or consultants. And this data needs to go through these various different platforms in order to get to them, because they're not internal to our company. So let's add something else to this. We now have a traditional data management system for Autodesk. Yes, Vault is now a traditional data management system, which is organizing that data on that server. So it takes all of that data and it stores it on that server in a file store with a SQL database that keeps all of those lovely little links and those bits of data organized and neat inside of a single location. Now, this makes it easier to back up, it makes it easier to maintain, it makes it more flexible in terms of reusing designs, it allows a lot of customization of workflows, it starts adding things like processes to your design, so you can start thinking about workflows and controlling documents at various stages in its life cycle, drawings and files at various stages of its life cycle. And it gets even more complex, right? This is now a system that we have to maintain and have to look after, and it's all local. So if anything was to happen and we weren't backed up correctly, we are responsible for ensuring that that data is still there. And sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes it does go wrong. And it's worthwhile considering that your data is in your hands. So one thing that we didn't see in that diagram, and I'll just go back to show you that once again, where's the external people to the designs? Where's your procurement? Where's your quality control? Where's the people who might be dealing in sales with some drawings? Who might need to go and look up documentation associated to your design and make sure that what they're buying for the factory floor to go and assemble these designs is actually what needs to be done, and they're buying it from the correct vendors and it's the right parts. This is where this system starts falling down, because we now have a lot of people outside of the system who need to be brought in. And again, that relies heavily on your external outputs in terms of your Dropboxes and your SharePoints and emails, etc., to make sure that that data gets to them too. So we end up with a diagram of our information in our company looking a little more like this. So you can see we've got our engineering office. It's just there in the middle, sort of, and it's kind of small by comparison to the rest of this. You can see that we've got the design office, the engineering office, we've got a service desk, we've got procurement, we've got manufacturing and quality and suppliers. And between all of these various different points, you can see that there's actually information flowing. Now, that information flowing might be because it's on a centralized server and being accessed. It might be sent directly. You can see that there's Microsoft Outlook symbols and here and Word and various different design icons and things like that. And you can see that it's got various different file types as well. It might be G-code, it might be STL, it might be SolidWorks design files, it might be Inventor design files. All of this needs to be sent through various different parts of the business in order to make sure that the data ends up where it needs to be and as concise as it can possibly be. So, with all of this chaos that is now existing inside of our business, you can have all of the systems that you'd like in the world managing this process. Unless you're actually on one platform, you've got multiple systems that you need to manage. And this kind of chaos becomes a reality. Okay. So, when we are introducing new products, when we are working with designs and projects, late changes have consequences. Okay. The further down the design process we get, you can see we go through concept, design, prototype, handing off to MFG, production, ramp up, actual production, and then we got the support of the product right at the end of its life cycle. You can see that the cost of fixing any problems that occur at any point in that life cycle get higher the further down that life cycle it is. Okay, and it just keeps getting higher and higher, and the amount of effort required gets higher and higher. That's why the costs go up. Okay. So we've got the typical practice in a lot of engineering and design companies of throw it over the wall. Engineer takes that design and chucks it over to the other side where you've got supply chain and manufacturing and quality and services. And he basically takes that bit of data and says, right, I'm done with this. Now it's your problem. Okay. It happens. A lot of companies, including companies where I work doing design, it happens. Because on their plate, they've got other designs that they need to get out of, and they need to get that done now. So this leads to high lifecycle change costs. So whenever there's changes required, it kind of becomes more expensive to fix this because they have to chuck it back across this wall, engineering has to fix it, and then they have to chuck it back, and then they start looking at it. Notice that the two are not working on the same thing at the same time because either engineering's got it or the rest of them have it. And that's not really going to work in terms of a seamless workflow. So let's move supply chain and manufacturing and quality services to the left. So we've now included them in that beginning part of this design at the point where the design is happening. If we worked on a single system, say for example, where manufacturing could have a look at the design as it was being made and maybe provide some feedback in terms of how that design could be changed to streamline manufacturing or make it actually manufacturable. You could have quality looking for any potential issues that might be occurring and checking documentation a lot earlier than they were before. You can have service, having access to the correct service parts and saying, oh, hang on, that might be a problem because of X, Y, Z. We can have procurement looking at this design saying, okay, that supplier's got this part and we can get it for this cost, which means that this is going to affect this, and so on and so forth. And this leads to lower cumulative change costs. Whenever an issue is brought up, it is earlier in that life cycle for the design, which means that we don't have as much cost in terms of fixing it. The earlier we can fix these problems, the less costly. So, with one system, we end up with something that looks like this, taking all of those various different parts of the company and putting them under one banner. This is where Autodesk PLM comes in. Okay. Now, Autodesk PLM, there's various different names out there. You might have seen Fusion Manage with Upchain. You might have seen Autodesk PLM, Vault PLM. I'm pretty sure that Fusion Manage used to be called Fusion Lifecycle, and it's had so many various different iterations over its time that it becomes quite confusing as to what product you're dealing with as soon as you get to product lifecycle management. Okay, so here we've got Autodesk PLM. But that's not what we're here to discuss today. Yes, it's part of it, but we want to talk about one particular product underneath Autodesk PLM. So what's Upchain? Sorry, couldn't resist the joke. Well, Autodesk PLM includes Fusion 360 Manage with Upchain. Now, what is Upchain? And that is, it is a connected product development platform. Okay. So it's PLM, which includes PDM. Now, for those of us who don't know all of these acronyms, PDM, Product Data Management, and PLM, Product Lifecycle Management. So PDM deals with where the files are stored, how they're handled, what they, how they're accessed, etc. And PLM deals with the whole life cycle of the file inside of the business. And you can see up in the top left there, we've got data management. There is our PDM component. And I'm going to mention at this point in time, it's cloud hosted. So what that means is that you don't have anything local you need to worry about. You don't have to have servers in order to run this service, because if you are just purely running Upchain, everything is actually off premises in terms of your designs. Okay, in terms of your storage of these designs, it is hosted in the cloud. And on top of that data management system, we now have BOM management, change management, new product integrations which can be implemented. We can go and do quality management processes inside of there. We can look at managing our suppliers with supply chain management. It allows us a single platform where we can go and do design collaboration, looking at designs together, creating mock-ups of things that might need to change, reviewing things in terms of, design review in terms of going through a life cycle and checking, is this design up to scratch? So starts off with one engineer, another engineer looks at it and goes, no, that's not going to work because of X, Y, Z. You can formalize these processes and these workflows inside of a single cloud-based PLM PDM system. Welcome to Fusion 360 Manage with Upchain. So, without further ado, let's jump straight in to what Upchain actually looks like and does. So, to start with, we have one common interface. That means that everyone who's accessing Upchain, whether they are designers, whether they exist in procurement, whether they are part of QC or QA or whatever it is you're going to call it, they exist inside of the same interface. Okay, they log on via a web browser directly onto the system. So let's go and have a look at what Upchain looks like. So on my system here is the first view that we've got of Upchain and what this can look like. If I go and click on this Upchain icon, it takes me to my main dashboard. This main dashboard shows me the projects which I'm currently working on, It shows me assignments that might have been done to those various different projects, and it shows me all of the information with regards to the items in that project and any documents that might have been published. In the bottom left, you can see that we've got our activity stream. This gives us a bit of live feedback in terms of what's been happening at various different points in the projects that we're associated with, because there might be projects that we're not associated with. Okay. In the middle over here, we've got favorited items. This might be items that we're working on currently and we wish to favorite so that we've got quick access to go and find these things easier. That's available right here. And on the right-hand side, I've got my assignments. These are things that have been assigned to me to go and do, whether that is to review something, to sign something off, or actually complete a task on a particular project. Okay, that has been assigned over here. So first thing we're going to go ahead and do is click on this drop down over here, and you can see that we've got access to various different projects. So let's go and have a look at a project which I've already gone and added. So this coffee table project over here. If I go and activate that, you can see that I've got project completion. You can see how many assignments there were on this particular project, the total which is due, and any critical assignments. This is all dealing with various different assignments. And it shows me some project information. So what it's called, what its key might be, and our project key is a unique identifier for that particular project. When it was started, what its priority is, what its status is, and you can see it's currently active, and any members who might be part of this particular project. So you can see I've got myself and two of my colleagues on here. Okay, so if we have a look at the activity stream down here, it shows us for this project what's been happening. Now, we've got this interface over here, which allows us to access various different parts of that project. So we're currently looking at the project dashboard. If we clicked on the BOM management part, we can go and see the various files that make up our different parts. Our assembly at our top, so our coffee table GA, for example. Now, each of these are items. Now, if you're looking for an explanation about what an item is, it is not a singular design or a single file. It is kind of an envelope that contains various different things. Now, each part here is an item, yes, but those items might contain documentation, they might contain drawings, they might contain specifications that have been uploaded. That can all be uploaded to these various different parts. So by selecting this top GA over here, I have access to the various children that make up this assembly, and I can see what information there is on this file. And you can see that it's giving me the status of that file. It's telling me whether it has a model attached or not there, whether it has a drawing attached. You can see that our top GA actually has a drawing attached, but none of the other files have drawings yet. Okay, you can see that there's translations attached and that there aren't any additional files such as specifications or PDFs attached to it. It's also got visualizations that's been created there, whether there's tasks required to be done for this particular file, and this entire view can be customized as need be as well. You can change the columns like so. Okay, now you might see various different BOMs. For example, you can see that we've got E BOM over here. Okay, you can see that we've got S BOM over there. Okay, and you'll also find that we've got C BOM. Okay, so we've got E BOM, which is an engineering BOM, C BOM, which is a CAD BOM. I'm trying to remember what S stands for. S stands for... I'd have to look that one up. Anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, we've got our various different parts over here, and if we selected one file, for example, you can see exactly what's contained within, and you would see any files that might be part of it as well, such as a specification. Okay, below that we have our project management area. Now this does need to load this again. It's probably the slowest interface to go and access inside of Upchain, but it gives us a project management view of this entire project. Now we're going to be creating a project shortly, so we'll create one of these. And you can see that we've got a business processes workflow over here, or an area over here, which shows us various different change requests which have been done as part of this one. So you can see that we had one change request that was completed, and that was probably the initial release of the coffee table design. And then we had another change request which was initiated but never completed. So it was cancelled essentially. Now we can see the full history in terms of that. And if we have a look at that, you can see who the project manager was, completed by, who's done these various things. Now, because I'm the only one who's doing this in this particular Upchain instance right now in this particular project. You can see that my name is on a lot of these various different things. Okay. Now we also have the Documents tab. This allows us to see various different documents that might have been added to the files inside of this project, or just project documentation which had been uploaded in here as well. And then we have our project settings, which allow us to work with project workflows, say for example, close a particular project or archive a particular project when everything is now done. Okay, it is possible to create sub-projects, just mentioning that there, create a photo for this particular one, manage who's in this project. You can see myself, Alex Fielder, and Cameron are part of this particular project. Now there's no teams part of it, there's no divisions part of it, and there's no suppliers part of it because I haven't added or configured any of those. Notice I can go and add suppliers if I wanted to. Okay, now this particular project is private, which means that you can only see it if you have been invited to it. So the members that are listed here can see this particular project. If they are not listed here, they will not have visibility on it. Same thing with teams and groups can be done. Okay, now this allows us to control access to our data in various different ways. So, just heading back to our home page for a second, I want you to note that we've got our Inventor Content Center as a separate project. Now that's because I was looking for a kind of folder where you can organize various parts of a certain kind into it. So I've created one for my Content Center files to go away and be organized in there, so I can use them on multiple different projects without them having been squirreled away in one project or another. You can do the same thing with standard parts or common parts that you might be using throughout your designs. You can go and add them to various different projects. It is possible for a part to be added to, or an item to be pulled from one project to others. So that's why it works to go and put these various different files like this. So let's go ahead and create our first project, shall we? We're going to go and create a design project. Notice there's various different formats that we can create a project in, and these can be configured because you can see it's a template. So we want a design project. We've got no templates configured. Project number we'll leave as auto. Project name, let's go and put this as car seat. Car seats. And we'll give this a unique identifier. Now this is going to be the code by which the project is seen and is identified by. So I'm just going to add man and machine 3, the third project in this particular instance of Upchain. Sorry, tenant of Upchain. Customer is there. We can add a description, and this is going to be project or webinar. And we can add it as a project underneath another project if we wanted. And we've got a workflow for it as well. So these workflows can be configured as part of the settings. Your tenant administrator would go and configure these, or it could be us configuring it for you if that was what you would prefer. And we go and select one of the workflows that we've got there. We've only got one, so let's go ahead and click create there. It'll go ahead and create a project for us. Now you can see that we've got our car seat project available here. And we're now going to go immediately down to our project management tab. And let's start creating some various different tasks to be done here. So let's go and add a task. So task workflow. Let's go and say create initial design. There we go. It's assigned to me. Duration is 1 day. We've got a constraint type that it should be started on a particular date, or it must be start no earlier than the 13th, for example. Okay, all of these various different constraints can be added there. We can just leave this as soon as possible. And under the description, create the initial design of the car seats and upload them. Okay. If we wanted to add any documents to this, we could add any uploaded documents to this task, or added items to this task. So if we wanted to add any items in this project to this particular task, such as modify this particular design, we could go and add that design into this particular item and include it as part of this. Okay, so we've added the task. Okay, right, so now that we've got that done, let's go ahead and add another. So let's go and say task workflow, initiate workflow on again, I'll put it on me. Constraint type. We'll leave that as, sorry, just leave that as soon as possible. We can leave that blank, I'm sure. Okay, and we'll just go and say start workflow on the example model. Okay, not going to add any documents or anything. Add this task. And you can see we've got another task which has been added to our name here. And if we zoom out a little bit, we'll be able to go and add this and create a little bit of a workflow to manage this particular project. So you can see the start date on this one is the 10th and finishes on the 11th. Okay, right, so now that that's done, let's go ahead and move on. Okay, jumping back into our PowerPoint at this point in time, I'm just going to move over a slide. This is giving us a little bit more information about the intuitive dashboards that we can see. So there's an example of the project management that can occur. And it keeps everyone aligned by everyone working in the same system. Okay, so Upchain is CAD agnostic. Autodesk acquired Upchain. It was not developed from scratch. It was a company that was bought out, and their original design intent was to have a piece of software which didn't care what CAD software the file was created on, it would work with it. So as a result, we find ourselves with a piece of software that integrates a lot of the major CAD systems directly into Upchain. Okay, right. So with that, everyone then goes and sees the same data. It doesn't matter what CAD program you are on. Okay, but it allows you to go and use different tools and integrate them into your designs, and you've then got translations of those files and you can use them. So let's say, for example, that you've got one part of your business that's run on SolidWorks for years. Okay, they should speak to us about potentially changing over to Inventor, but we'll leave it at that. They want to stick with SolidWorks for now. Your design team loves Inventor. Okay, but you still need to work with those SolidWorks guys and actually get their designs incorporated into yours. Now, anyone who's done that kind of translation work and worked with people who are on different various CAD softwares knows that it can be an absolute pain trying to do so. It can be time consuming. You have to worry about versions. You have to make sure that the export's the latest version. It's not a simple case of they go and save the file and it updates. Well, it is now that we've got any CAD, okay, because any CAD's fantastic inside of Inventor. But it wasn't like that when I was doing it. Someone would go and have to go and export a file in the third-party format for me to go and import and then look at and then change and modify and do the same in the other direction so that I could, give them designs as well. It can be quite an arduous process. Being able to work in one system is a huge advantage. Okay. Right, so let's jump into Inventor and let's have a look at our car seat model over here. Okay. This is also going to give us our first view of the Upchain plugin for CAD. Okay, so you can see on the right-hand side of my screen, I've got my Upchain window. This is a standard Inventor window. I can go and dock this wherever I'd like. I can go and put this as a tab over here, or I can have it on the right-hand side of my screen where I like to see it so that I can see the various different things happening all at once. And this gives me the space to go and design as I'd like. So with this file completely opened, you can see that we've actually got a fairly large model. We've got 420 occurrences, in this particular document. And we now wish to register this with a particular project. Now, I'm going to make sure that up at the top here, I've got my projects. It shows me all of the projects that I'm part of. Okay. And if I look at my workspace, there's no active views in my workspace. So currently, we can't see our project. And that is because we haven't actually assigned ourselves to that particular project. So let's jump back into Upchain over here and go look at the project settings for our car seat project. Okay, as that, you can see that I'm listed as the project manager. No wonder I can't see anything. So let's go and change this particular one over here, add members. Let's go and say that I wish to be lead mechanical designer, and well, we can add Alex as lead mechanical designer, sure. Okay, and we can go and change this particular assignment, I'm sure. Okay, mechanical designer. Can I list myself? Thought I could. Okay, we can add these various different people there. Oh, but we haven't initiated our project, which is why it's not working. Okay, so notice that this particular project with car seats is currently in draft, which is why we cannot see it over here. Okay, so let's jump back to Upchain for a second and go and start the workflow on this particular project. Now these workflows again can be configured as part of your tenant administration. I mustn't forget I actually need to start a project in order to work. So it's still currently draft, but we've got the ability to now activate this project. Okay. Right, so we now have an active project. And if we go and click on this drop down over here, we should now see it as a project with a project number. Okay, jumping back to our inventor over here. Let's give this a little bit of a refresh. Okay, still don't see it as a project. This is rather frustrating. See whether we can change it. Okay, let's go to project 1 for a second and change to car seats over there. Okay, so this particular project is laying over there. You can see that it's got all of our information, project webinar, name of this project, number, etc. Jumping back to Inventor, we really should be able to see it, and we can't. Which is a little worrying. Alright, so we found a problem here. All projects, it just wasn't favorited as a project, which was a little bit of a problem for me. So, if we go and expand all projects, you can see that we've got our car seat project in there, no problem. And if we go and activate that, you can see that we've got 2 assignments in there. We can actually go and click on View All. And you can see that we've got 2 in drafts. Okay, and this gives us the information on those various different assignments. So you can see that this is over there. By the way, if you wanted to have this separate to your window, you can drag this and resize it and have it outside of your window, maybe on another screen or wherever you might like it, because this gives you full visibility of this project as you might need it. You can see the description of this one is to start the workflow on the example model and to create the initial design. So let's dock this again. We'll just make it smaller. Right, so if we go ahead and click on our BOM views, you can see that we've got our CAD BOM over here. And you can see that we've got, under car seats, nothing there. Right. So if we go and click on this refresh button there, it should scan our design and give us a list of all of the children in this particular one. Now you can see that this is not registered. This is important. Okay, this not registered means that it is not currently part of Upchain. Okay, now the silly mistake at this point would be to go ahead and say check in, because we'd be checking these in without actually registering them first. So what we need to do is go and click on the top of our model first and go and say create item. Okay, it's going to ask us where in this project we want to put this. Now, if we had any items in there, we could go and put it as a child item inside of something else, but we want to go and put it in this one here, which is our top project. And when we go and click select, it's going to give us, well, first of all, it's going to scan through all of our files. It's going to look at our drawings. It's going to look at all the files and give us a list of the required files as is going to need to be done. just take a little bit of time to go through this. I've chosen a fairly large model, so it could take a little bit of time. Right, and there we go. Now, I'm going to need to apologize for the scaling issues that I'm experiencing here. So it's going to be difficult to see. I'm sorry about that. I wish I could make it easier. Here is our parts with some thumbnails for us to essentially go and see what they are. Now, this should normally appear quite much larger. Unfortunately, because of the scaling I've got on this computer, it is not appearing at the size that it should be. Now, each of these files, you can see it is none because there is no file there. File status is new. Our change descriptions can be filled out, so we can go and say initial design, for example. We can actually go and copy and paste that throughout all of these if we'd like. I don't think I can bulk do this, so I'm just going to do a couple. Okay, we can also go and fill out descriptions of those various files. Okay, well, that's just the change description, my apologies. We also have our files have the part number being generated and a field. Now, this numbering scheme is configured. Okay, notice it's one file here, assembly. Okay, and my parts are PT, not AM. Okay, because that's a numbering scheme that I have configured inside of Upchain. Now, this is how the item numbers are going to be created. Not the file names. The file names still need to be unique, but the item numbers for these parts is part of a numbering scheme. So if we need to input manually a part number, we could. If we wanted to go ahead and change these two digits, so let's say, for example, I wanted to put XX, well, that's actually not a good example. Let's go and put 12 as our description for that particular one there. You can see that that one now has 12. Sorry, put in there 12 save. Okay, and you can see it's then going to be AM sequence 12. If you don't manually change this, it will use the auto new item numbering scheme, in which case it will go through this manually without you filling in anything. So if anything does need to be filled in as part of your naming scheme, this is the point where you would need to do it. Notice that this is also called an anomalies window, and there are 145 anomalies, and you can click next, going through all of them. Okay. Okay. So click show details. It shows us the various different parts here. Now I know that this is because I've got a tiny little window and the demonstrations are quite small, but you can actually see those various different parts there, such as the seat base there. Okay, so if I go ahead and click OK, it will go ahead and register all of those items inside of Upchain. Okay, notice it's starting to process some files here, and it's referencing everything. So it is communicating with the server and making sure that all of these items are actually referenced and on the server. Probably what's going to take the longest in this demo. So, just have to wait for it to finish. My apologies, I maybe should have chosen a smaller model. It registers. Just popped up. You can see it's now asking me to save these various different files and their dependents. So I'll go ahead, click yes to all, and click OK, and it'll go and save this file. Now, the reason it is saving this file is because it actually moves it in terms of its location on my local machine. Because obviously when I'm designing, I'm not designing on a cloud-hosted server. I'm designing on a local machine which then communicates with a cloud-hosted server. Okay, so we need what's called a working folder. Now this folder is a location on our machine where those files are going to be worked on. And you will find this by going to your C drive, and under the home button, under the C drive, you will find a folder called home, and in there will be the username of the person who is running this machine and is actually running Upchain on this machine. Okay, and inside of that is all of the designs, and you can see it's putting a lot of these files into here, which is why it was saving them, because it was putting them into the home folder to be worked on in Upchain. So there's no subfolders, there's no managing subfolders in terms of where they need to go inside of the system. It's a very, very flat system that relies on projects to organize your data and on the search functionality to find things within projects. Okay, so I think it's just about done. Yep, it's just finished creating our items in the background there. So you can see now that we've got these lock icons because it is checked out to me. Okay, but it has created all of these items. Okay, so the initial design as completed here with all the eye properties and everything that I want in there can now go ahead and be checked in. If I select this top one there, you can see I've got the ability to cancel the checkout or check it in. Okay, yes, I want to continue, and it'll go ahead and check in that particular file. Now, it would have already sent these files to the server, so what I'm checking in is essentially the same versions of the files that's already been checked in. And it's going to republish all of the files it needs to do. So after any changes to this file, that is how I would go ahead and push changes to the live system. Right, so now that that's done, you can see that our designs are in there. It's in the development state, and it exists inside of Upchain. Now, if we go back to Upchain for a second here, you can see it hasn't yet refreshed, so we need to run a quick refresh on that. And you can see that we now have our file. Now, the name of this file is rather interesting. So, based on the numbering scheme that I've got, it assigns AM to all assemblies, it chooses a number, and it's then got 2 digits which can manually be filled out if need be. Okay, and then it's got these XXXX. Now this is our various different revisions that get used inside of the system. Okay, so you can see we've got essentially primary revisions and secondary revisions. Okay, so this one would move on when we activate the particular life cycle. So let's jump back to our PowerPoint for a second and look at the next thing that we've got, which is speeding up review cycles. So inside of Upchain, we have the ability to go and review things inside of this design as part of the life cycle. So we could go ahead and create some markups. We could go and create a change notice for it and ask it to be reviewed in the life cycle so that that design can be modified and changed again, and that being been modified as part of what needs to be done. Okay. Part of that, we've also got visualization in the system, which allows us to go and view files that we've got inside of Upchain on the web, which means that anyone who's working and doesn't have CAD systems can go ahead and access the same design data, viewing it in the cloud instead. Now this allows us to do things like BOM comparisons. So you can actually see that we've got visualization on the bottom of that screen. We've got our BOM in the other. So because there's a BOM being created inside of Upchain, we've also got the comparison between those two, which allows us to see visually the changes between those files, what's changed from one to the other. Okay, so let's jump into our Upchain example again, and let's go and move a file inside of a lifecycle. Okay, so our design over here, you can see it's currently in development and it has not been completed. And that is because we haven't actually asked it to be processed in terms of a change release. Okay, a CR. I think it's a CR. Business processes. Yeah, change request, sorry. As part of a change request. Okay, so with this file here, let's go ahead and select it. Let's go right-click on, not right-click on it, click on this menu over here, and you can see that we can now activate a lifecycle or a workflow on this by saying send to. So we've got the ability to go and create items, requirements, quality assurances, project tasks. We can go and create investigation reports, change requests, change notices. But what we really want to do is activate or send it to a change request, because this is going to allow us to move it in the lifecycle and actually release it. So let's go ahead and click on change request. And it's going to ask us to create a change request for this file and all of the children. So it's processing all of those files now. And you can see that currently those files exist as development, apart from one file which was released because it was checked in as part of something else. Okay. So you can see up at the top I've got something highlighted in red. What the priority of this is. Is this something which is critical? Is this something which is not? I'm going to say it's not, because this is the initial release of a design. Okay, if it is critical in terms of what you need, obviously select what you'd like. So ask for a description for this particular change release. Let's go and say initial release of the design. And we need to select the workflow. Again, our workflows are pre-configured and part of our tenant administration. I've got one here called ECR workflow. It's one of the ones out of the box. And once I've selected it, I can go and say save. And it will start the workflow on this particular design. Okay. Now at this particular one, you can see that I've got start workflow as part of this, or reject it. Okay. Now this is how I would normally get to this, by the way, is let's go back to the home page and I'll show you. So you can see that under here, I've got my assignments, release items. Okay. Let's create the initial design. We can actually go and tick these off. Let's go and do that quickly. Okay, so we've done this. Start workflow. Okay. And completion. You can just go and edit this. It is now 100% done. Save. We can go and add comments, do whatever we'd like with that. Okay. So that's now done. It's technically completed. Priority is finished. So let's go ahead and task complete. Okay, that's now done. We can approve that. So someone else can go and approve that if we wanted. Okay, that's now completed in terms of our project overview. Let's go and modify this one at the same time, because we're currently working on this. Let's start the workflow, because it's no longer a draft. And we can go and edit this and say that our completion is currently 10%, and we'll go and save that. Okay, right, you can see it's got 10% done on that one. Now, if we went to our business processes tab over here, we should have access to that change release, which we've now gone and started. So initial release of the design, we've gone and created that. It's currently in draft. If I go and select that, okay, you can see I've got start workflow or reject. Okay, or if I go and double click on it, it'll open up that same window I was in, and I've got access to the same tools up at the top. Now, it's important to note, I'm doing a lot of these tasks myself. These could be other people doing the same thing. So it could be the lead mechanical designer approving the mechanical designer's work. It could be the project manager looking at the design and looking at the design specification saying, is this what I need or not? Okay, these workflows can be built and customized according to what it is that you need. So let's go ahead and start the workflow. And we've now started that particular one. Okay, so workflow processing. Notice I'm currently the person who's also got this in my name. So its status is now pending. If I went back to that particular file, so let's go and look at the car seats project again, and we looked at our BOM, you can see that this is currently pending. Okay, all of the files in here are currently pending. Okay, this item has been submitted to the ECR, Engineering Change Release process. Okay, so go back to our business processes. Let's open that up again. This business process is in progress, which is why it's like that. Double click on it. And you can see I've got the ability to either release items or reject items. Okay. Now I'm going to take a closer look at this particular life cycle in a little bit. I'll show you a little bit behind the administration curtain, so to speak, so that you can see how that was configured. So the release items, let's go and complete this. Now the same thing would be done for completed items needing to be revised. Okay, I'll show you what the numbering does in a second, and we'll have a look at this. I might need another demo at another point in time to show you a little bit more detail. So release items, workflow is currently processing, sorry. Takes a little bit of time to go ahead and do. Yeah. Let's at the same time just go and open this up. Car seeds. Let's show you what that workflow looks like quickly. So administration. We'll just get back to our business processes at the same time. Notice we can work in multiple tabs, which is again quite useful. Okay, workflow is now completed, and those items that were part of that are now released. Okay, so if we went to our workflows here, if we had a look at our tenant workflows, let's go change release. Go on. Sorry, system workflows. Go to our change release ECR workflow. This is the workflow that we were moving that file inside of our example. And you can see that it's got a start point and a stop point. And these can be configured to do various different things at whatever point in time, with decisions being made at other points in time. So you can see you've got the ability to release items there, or you've got the ability to select where things move from and to, what automated processes happen. You've got system primitives in terms of a system decision that needs to be made. You've got decisions in terms of users. Is it a task? Is it a decision? So let's say retry, release, or finish workflow. This is if something gets rejected. So release items. Okay. Failed heads to 6. Passed heads to 7. Okay. So you can see that these can be configured to be whatever it is that we might need them to be, and your workflows can be tailored to suit your needs. Okay, so now that these items are done, I'm just going to close this, and we're going to head back to those bombs, and I just want to show you that we have that same file, okay, but I want you to look at the numbering. We have AM10001-12, because that number was the one that I configured, and now we've got AA00. That was XXXX before, denoting that it was not yet revised. This is like releasing something as Rev 1. Okay, it's just Upchain's particular way of dealing with revisions. Okay, jumping back into our PowerPoint for a second. Okay. It is also possible to go ahead and do supplier management with Upchain, allowing us to go and add our suppliers and start automating our RFQs inside of Upchain 2. Now, I'm well aware that I've kept you hostage here for at least 55 minutes. So let's stop there for today. This has been a brief introduction to what Upchain is capable of, and we've gone through one small process in terms of it. It is a data management system with a whole host of various different things that can be added on top of it. And you don't have to use them all. You can use however many you would like. Now, I will note that we'll probably be creating more of these as time goes. So keep your eyes peeled for more of these particular webinars. So